Hey guys, thank you so much. This is Vincent with DTF Station. I have a awesome guest here today. I have Jeremy, who really needs no introduction, but Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, awesome. I'm so stoked to be on your guys' channel today. My name is Jeremy. I'm with Gamut Consulting. You may have known me from my previous gig, but this is the new thing. I am really, really passionate about helping the DTF industry as a whole, specifically end users, as well as helping dealers give their end users a better experience. I'm all about color. I'm all about just better DTF overall. So yeah, I'm stoked to be on here today to share a little bit about the equipment that I'm using and hopefully answer some questions.
Yeah, awesome. When I think of the printing industry, I think of the Joe Piazzas for like vinyl. I think of the Esteban Romeros for like DTG. But when it comes to DTF, Jeremy, you're the guy. You're the guy that I go to on YouTube sometimes to figure out how to knock out colors or how to make my transfers look better. And the second I heard Jeremy is rocking the Prestige R2 Pro, I was like, dude, let's work together on this and let's put out some content because I'm super excited. But that's the big question. Why the R2 Pro?
Yeah, so I picked the R2 Pro. I've got it here mostly because I don't have a lot of space. This is my studio space. It's 12 by 12 feet, and I do all of my stuff in here. All of my videos, everything is done in here. So I didn't have a lot of room, but I wanted to make videos, especially when it comes like maintaining the machine and doing some work on the machine, that worked for everybody or for as many people in the industry as I could. And this uses the i1600 printhead, which is very similar to the i3200 printhead from like a functioning standpoint, like a maintenance damper, like behavioral standpoint. It's really similar. And I just wanted to be able to make content that hit most of the industry, but in a form factor that fit in my space. So that's really why this was the machine I chose to go with.
No, that's awesome. One of the most common questions I get is, people want to get a DTF printer, but they see the 24-inch machines that'll never fit in their home, or they don't have an actual print area location. So that is proof right there that the Prestige R2 Pro, not only the printer though, right? Because I also see the Miro 13 Max hooked up to it. Is that what we're looking at? So you have a full setup in your workspace, in your home, right?
Yeah. So I've got a detached one-car garage at my house. It used to be my wood shop, and once I went solo doing this, I was like, well, it's now my YouTube studio. And I always got funny looks at Home Depot when I picked up parts for doing this, and they're like, what are you building? I'm like, a YouTube studio.
That's awesome. The small footprint is I think a reason why the R2 Pro does so well. But the common question we get from dealers, end users, DTF machines for a lot of people are scary. But what has been your experience from when you received the R2 Pro? Like, how was the initial setup?
Yeah, the initial setup was quite easy. I don't tell the powers that be, but I did lift it by myself and put it up on the table. I just gorilla'd it and put it up there. I was gonna have somebody help, but I was like, I can do it myself. But no, the setup was really great. I think the biggest thing, and I actually have it right here, is this little startup guide that you guys ship with the printers. Like, this is golden because it's like everything, all the videos. There's actually something on the dryer shaker that I was like, oh wait, this doesn't make sense, because I like to try things on my own. And I checked the video. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. So it's awesome that everything is like right here, ready to go. I was actually live streaming on TikTok when I was setting it up, and I showed this to the audience on TikTok, and they were like, they loved like this thing, the little maintenance guide. Yeah. So yeah, it's just, everything is really thoughtful with the way it's packaged, with the way it's prepped and ready to go. Like that's what I really loved about it. So, hey, just real quick for the folks that are watching, if you guys do have questions on the machine, let me know. If you're a dealer or an end user, like dealers, we want to give you some tips on how you can present this to potential clients. And if you're users out there, definitely let us know if you got a question. I know all y'all want to see it run. So Vince is going to ask me some more questions, but I'm going to first get this thing up and running so you guys can see it work. And although it's not recommended to run it with the top open, I am going to open up the top so you guys can see when it's printing. And I've got for you guys a little printer cam right here. But first, let's load up a gang sheet I already built up in NeoStampa. Yes, I am using NeoStampa. Those of you who are older R2 Pro users, maybe have used DigiRip and you still can. But I'm a big NeoStampa fan. I was actually had a funny interaction with Vince when I found out that they were using NeoStampa. So, but yeah, let me open up this gang sheet real quick and let's get it started printing.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, Jeremy. I remember at the trade show we were talking, and you let me know all your expertise with DigiRip, and I know you're a master of that. But I was like, we're kind of moving over to NeoStampa, and you were like, dude, even better,
Yeah, even better. I was pretty stoked. So
what are, for some users that are using, say, DigiRip, that are on the fence about moving over to NeoStampa, can you just talk about maybe some of like the differences or reasons why you would move over? Because I know DigiRip is great, but what are the reasons that you would kind of move over to NeoStampa if you had the choice?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me, being a color person, is that the color engine in NeoStampa is a lot stronger, but there's also some fun little user things in it that are kind of crazy. Like if you've ever tried to duplicate an image in DigiRip, which is very similar to Digital Factory or CADLink, is normal functions like copy, paste, or undo don't exist in DigiRip or NeoStampa, or in DigiRip or Digital Factory. I'm literally just going to use Control C to copy it and Control V paste extra copies of it. But then if I go, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, I can actually Control Z back out of it, which is just like, I joke around that like I don't know of another rip that does that. So that's from an ease of use standpoint thing that I love about NeoStampa. But again, I'm a huge fan of the color engine in it and the lack of graininess. It does a really good job of mitigating some of the graininess that we've seen in some other rip softwares.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, just something as simple as Control C, Control V, right? From us using PCs and using, anything on a PC, just copy paste seems so basic.
I tell you
but
what,
in DigiRip,
the first time I did that, the first time I did something, I'm like, whoops, and I just instinctively did Control Z, and it actually undid it. I was blown away.
Mind blown, huh? That's awesome. And you mentioned you kind of touched on the graininess. I know, DigiRip is great for almost all of our users, and a lot of people love it. But you're a color guy, right? And so, unless you're really color specific, you really probably don't see the difference unless you're, selling products to schools or making transfers for colleges that are very, very color specific. But if you could touch on the color a little bit more, because you mentioned graininess, how are the differences between those two when it comes to the actual color?
Yeah, so graininess can come from a bunch of different places, a bunch of different sources. When I was testing, the first time I tested with NeoStampa, that was one of the first things I noticed is that very quickly that colors that were normally kind of grainier weren't as grainy. Now, that's not to say it's going to fix it if it's coming from another source. Like I know some printers, like the waveform might be off on the cyan or something like that. I know there's a printer out there that from a major manufacturer that their cyan grain is horrible. And really, anytime you mix cyan into it, it makes it bad. Now, using NeoStampa with it made it better, but it didn't completely fix it. So that's why I say it kind of depends on the source of the graininess, but NeoStampa definitely, I find less graininess in it.
Awesome. I was watching one of your videos previously, and I think you were touching on reds, but someone was asking about grays, and I was like, oh no, like gray is just one of those colors. I think you'd mentioned you can make a whole video on it, on just talking about gray, because there's so much that goes into color, right? All of our users can throw a PNG, PDF, doesn't really matter. They can print it, it's going to look great, but when you try to like actually color match and hit those reds, blues, grays, you got to know what you're doing. And that's why I watch your channel all the time, because even for NeoStampa, it's fairly new to me. And so, if you're watching this, if you're a user on the fence, go to Jeremy's channel on Color Gamut and watch his videos on color. Like that is the best advice I can give you when it comes to very specific products. Colors, especially those grays, right?
Oh yeah, those grays are difficult sometimes.
And we just switched to the camera view, but it looks like that R2 Pro is pretty much flying.
It's cooking.
Wow, it's not slow by any means, right?
Yeah. That's the other reason I like it, is because with desktop, it's a big desktop, but a desktop type format, you can get like 30 to 35 square feet an hour, which is as fast or faster than even some name brand printers that are out there that cost like twice as much. So it's pretty impressive. I'm gonna actually switch to a different camera and show you guys some of the results coming out of it.
Wow. And Jeremy, that's hooked up to the Miro 13 Max, right? That's the shaker dryer you have hooked up to it?
Yep, I got a Miro 13 Max. The beautiful lit up icons on the other side. There it is. But no, I like what you guys have done with the dryer shaker, not using bulbs, using a heat platen on the bottom. I love that. I personally think, and you guys got rid of the conveyor belt vacuum system. Yeah. That was one of the noisiest parts of dryer shakers, but it was also one of the most common issues in dryer shakers was that vacuum setup. So I like what you guys have done with this thing. Again, I think the heated platen on it versus bulbs gives a lot more consistent heat. I just personally like that setup better from a consistency standpoint, because when you got the bulbs and you're relying on radiated heat, different things can affect the behavior of that air inside the printer. And I know that from doing a lot of testing with a lot of different machines out there.
Yeah, I know you've used many shaker dryers. And for a lot of our dealers, that sell different types of shaker dryers that have bulbs. I mean, you've heard it from Jeremy, the man who's probably tested as many shaker dryers as anybody that I know. Those bulbs go out over time. Like there's vacuums, like you mentioned, that cause issues over time. And so the Miro 13 is really just kind of simple, right? Like we want less features equals less headaches. And so again, the R2 Pro paired with that Miro 13, and it has the built-in purification. Like there's really no reason to look at a different shaker when you're talking about desktop units, right?
Yeah. And so again, with the dryer shaker combo, obviously we're not doing like big production with an R2 Pro, but it is an awesome stepping stone for that larger production, because you can just let this, it's done with that gang sheet was almost 4 feet long and it just finished up. So
quick.
The speed on it's really great. You can do a lot of production out of it. Like I said, you're probably not going to sell a lot of transfer, like big gang sheets. You can totally do that, but for it's a little bit lower production level, but still has amazing speed that you can actually produce a good volume of t-shirts, and you're not going to be having to outsource your transfers, because when you start outsourcing transfers, you don't have any control over white underbase, over some of the other settings that help DTF graphics feel softer and better. So
yeah, we're talking about like desktop units, so again, a lot of our dealers do offer other brands that are smaller and I want to say more entry level. We do have the R1, which essentially is the R2 Pro, but just a single print head, but what would you say for someone looking to get into the industry that is maybe looking at like a much smaller machine, that they're hoping to do volume on, that they just don't know the difference between, a single head L805 print head versus like an R2 Pro? Like what would your opinion or thoughts be to someone looking into that?
Yeah, so the single head versus the double head is a big difference, massive speed difference. Because if you go with a single head, which is usually using like an XP600 print head or an F1080 print or something like that, basically what it's doing to lay down the CMYK first and then the white is it's using only half the print head or half the nozzles. So it already kind of like halves your speed just having a single print head. So having two print heads ratchets up the speed immediately. It's just so much faster. And it does step up the complexity a little bit with having to make sure that white printhead is aligned with the CMYK print head, but the speed that you get out of it is just so much faster from one head to two. And a lot of folks will look at like some of the entry level stuff, like the converted machines. And the converted machines are a cheap solution, but they are not a really strong solution because you're going to end up chasing your tail a lot of times. I've heard people that have had success with it, but more often than not, there's horror stories or just people just chasing their tail with it. And honestly, that's not how you make money, is by chasing your tail. And everybody that I've ever come across that got into DTF immediately needed a bigger printer. So I think that something like this, like this setup, is really not terribly expensive. Like I've joked around that if you have a Pulse, you can usually get a business loan for $20,000-$30,000. And you can do that. You can have a setup here. You buy this setup here and a heat press, and you can make t-shirts and make a lot of t-shirts. And you run this thing, like I said, we did about 48 inches in like 10 minutes, maybe, not even. Somebody's going to do my math and comment below afterwards and tell me I'm wrong. But basically, that could have been 5 12-inch long, four 12-inch long graphics, and you run that for 6 or 7 hours in the day, and you've got 100 shirts you could do in a day, if not more than that. So the volume is really good without it taking up a lot of space.
You know, that's the best part, right? So we're just chatting, we're having a conversation, we're talking about DTF, but while we're talking, you're physically printing, right? That roll is going to have completed transfers that if you're selling the transfers or you're making your own apparel, they're ready to be heat pressed, right? Like you're not physically doing anything while it's printing.
Yeah. I'll actually, let me pop over to this one, and I will actually cut off what we printed earlier without trying to mess it up. There was another thing. Oh, the catch tray for the powder has a little like spout on it. So when you're dumping it out, it doesn't go everywhere. For anybody who's used another dryer shaker out there and has come across that issue where when you dump out your powder or dump it into your bucket at the end of the day, it oftentimes pours everywhere. So it's actually a very minor thing, but a thing that I love was that little pour spout on there. So, and I think I'm going to find more things the more that I play with this and use this. But here it is.
Look at that! Wow.
Make sure it doesn't focus on my face.
So looks great.
The colors are fantastic, and actually, let me think. I'm going to pull it up right here. Let's see. And that's what the original looked like when in Photoshop. So that is pretty darn close. Obviously, there's some color things that happen in the live stream, but yeah, I'm looking at them next to each other on the screen, and they look pretty darn close. That's the other thing. Okay, I didn't mention this earlier, but y'all ship your printers with baked in profiles that are good.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of, and maybe there's a dealer watching this right now that sells machines, and then their tech support is spending all day, every day dealing with color issues. And that's something, and one of the reasons I wanted to partner with you guys when I went out on my own is because you guys ship it ready, like with the profiles already set up to where it actually looks good, where most other folks are like, try stuff in Digital Factory and see if it looks okay. And people are trying random combinations of ICCs, and that just doesn't work, y'all. ICC profiles are based on film, ink, and printer, like that combination, and you change one of those variables and it makes a dramatic difference and is going to look way off. You might luck out and get one, but as opposed to lucking out, The
Yeah.
DTF station stuff comes totally ready to go. And I haven't tweaked this yet. I haven't taken, I obviously will. I'm going to play with it. I like to play with my own color profiles, but that is completely untweaked. So yeah, I out of the box, ready to go. I love that you guys do it like that. Oh no, I lost you. I can't hear you, Vince. Oh. Here, Vince, I got something for you.
How about now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, cool. I think I sat on my audio guy here, but no, you know what? It's great hearing it from you. And I get dealers all the time asking me, "Hey, will other inks work with your machine? Can I sell the customer a different film?" We try to give it basically preloaded, ready to go. Like, you sell this to your customer, the inks, films, the profile is ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want them bugging you saying, "Hey, this color doesn't look great." If they have questions, get on Discord and ask us. We can tweak some things. But hearing it from you, so if you're a dealer asking, I want them to hear it from you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Should they be selling other inks for their R2 Pro with what we've already been given them?
Can you? Yes, it's a bulk ink system. You can put other ink in there, but should you? No, because unless you want to go out and buy an X-Rite spectrophotometer for $3,500, and actually I think it's like $3,800. But unless you want to go do that yourself and build your own ICC profiles and all those kind of things, like, again, that's why I love what you guys do, is because you package. Here's the setup, and then the customer goes and they buy the setup from a dealer, and they get to stick it in their shop and know that it's going to come out looking right from the get-go. And I know other folks that have put other inks in DTF station equipment, and they end up chasing their tail a little bit because they might have put a poorer quality ink in it. Like, that's a huge factor. So yeah. And when I first came across your guys' stuff, and got to play with it and work with it, I think there's actually a short out there when I first got to look at an R2 Pro. And the quality of your guys' ink and the quality of your guys' film is a huge factor on it. And that's something that in all of my testing, there's only been a couple of inks that performed like your guys' does. So yeah, I think that some people don't like being locked into stuff. It's one of the reasons why, like, some of the major brands get pushed back on their cartridge ink systems, but there's a reason for that. There's a reason that they do that. And there's a reason that you guys recommend you stick with those inks and film. It's because it's going to work and you're going to get good color. And I know some folks like to chase. They like to chase the cheapest whatever, because they're trying to cut costs. But I will tell you, the majority of your costs are labor. If you have people working for you, the majority of your cost is labor. And you will very quickly find that you're going to spend a lot more money chasing maintenance items on your machine, chasing color issues on your machine, if you switch your ink. And so it comes ready to go. So there's really not a reason to swap that out. And yes, it is a little bit of a premium, but it's worth it because your system's going to work better and you're not going to be chasing those colors and having to do reprints. I mean, what's more expensive? A few extra, maybe a cent or two more per print, or reprinting that whole thing again because the color got screwed up?
Yeah, it happens way too often. I see it on Discord. Man, it breaks my heart. It's like we give you the tools, everything that's for you to succeed, and just changing a small variable like ink. Even a lot of time, even at trade shows, customers are like, "Well, I use whatever film. Like, film doesn't matter." I'm like, "What do you mean film doesn't matter? Film is
so it matters so much."
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you this, just from a technical standpoint, film have different ink absorbing amounts. So that ink absorbing layer with the ink lands on, there are different. It's like a sponge. Like, one sponge can hold like a half cup of water and another sponge only holds a quarter cup of water. If you throw a film in this machine that doesn't have as thick of an ink absorbing layer, it's going to run everywhere. You're going to think it's like everything's broken. And it's literally just that film can't handle the same volume of ink that the Color Prime film can. And that also affects the colors you can reproduce, because if you don't have a good ink absorbing layer, it's not capable of laying down enough ink to give you better saturated colors, because the more saturated, the more deep a hue is, the more ink is involved to produce that color. So you put a cheap random film in there and it could mess all sorts of things up for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man. I see it way too often. I've even seen film not want to go through pinch rollers. It doesn't cook properly. Ink starts bleeding, like you said. That sponge analogy. Might have to
Yep.
steal that one from you, because
Go for
explaining that film is not created equal is half the battle. Because you go on Amazon and find something so cheap, it just customers, like you said, want to save a couple of cents, which they end up chasing their tail because again they're not using everything that's presented to them. When we're talking about like film, ink, everything, the printer is something that doesn't get touched on enough. I think we were having a little conversation before we went live. When you were doing this setup, you notice like small differences that I think make DTF Station Prestige printers different than others. But if you
Yeah.
can touch on that, what you saw when you were doing the install.
Yeah. So when I was setting this up, the first thing I noticed is the encoder strip is back behind this metal plate. And that encoder strip, if you're not familiar with what its purpose is it kind of helps, there's a sensor on it that helps the carriage know where it's located on the bar here. And if that encoder strip gets damaged, get ink on it, something like that, it can mess up so many things. It can cause the printer to just not work at all. It can also just like cause it to behave weirdly. So that was one thing that was huge when I was playing around with it. Another thing is when I move the carriage over, it's a really stupid small thing, but for those of you guys who saw that like slow down, like it moves so smoothly and it's quiet. Like that's the kind of stuff that like gets me excited, is like the smooth operation for anybody who's a video person, and it's like almost like an ease in and ease out transition. I'm like, chef's kiss. It was so good.
Those are like super small details that
Yeah.
the average user wouldn't pick up, right? But you, someone who's had so much experience with different DTF printers, like the small features like that, or even like you mentioned, when you open the lid, there's a safety sensor on there that doesn't want you to leave it open while you print, because we don't want head strikes. We don't want users, to mess the printer up. We're trying to give them all the tools that are there. One quick other question I have, because a lot of our dealers, are selling this to entry-level users that are on the fence about getting into DTF. What would be some advice you would give someone that's on the fence, ready to make the jump, but just need that little extra push?
Yeah. So I often talk to people about, like, previously I was always like, buy based off support, because a lot of the stuff that's out there is kind of similar stuff from same manufacturers rebranded. With you guys, you are doing the manufacturing, you are like from the baseline of it, and your guys' source of knowledge is massive. Like I've done a lot of experimentation in the Host and Soft Print EXP software. And I felt like I knew a lot. I knew more than a lot of people out there. And then I met your tech support crew who know more about it. And you guys actually now have Pilot, which is a fixed version of it, or a better. What I mean by fixed is like fixed things like Nosrtech and stupid things on it that didn't make sense. You guys fixed a lot of that, but yeah, from a support standpoint, it's huge. And with these machines, like I said, with this little quick start guide, you guys have videos on how to set it up, how to get started with printing with it. You guys have videos on how to use all of the software and things like that. The biggest thing I would say is for somebody who's trying to get started or interested in getting started, finding out kind of what they're, from a dealer side of things, find out kind of what their experience is. If they have no graphic design experience at all, encourage them to find like my channel. That's what a lot of my content is the design side of it. I've been working with Photoshop and Illustrator doing graphic design since the early 2000s. So for a while, and that's kind of, I think that's why I kind of came in with a little bit of a head start into DTF, was because I did have that graphic design background. Yeah, as a dealer, you want to find out kind of what their experience is, and then give them the support they need. In the case of the functioning of the equipment, the DTF station products come with all of that support and all of the things that they need, so they can literally just sit there and watch videos and go, oh, that's how I do this, cool, and you go over and do that. And so I think that's why these machines are ideal for a especially this one, a smaller production kind of setup. Obviously, you guys have smaller machines even for maybe more of like an Etsy hobbyist kind of speed, but this you can actually do production with it. So
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. You go to trade shows, so many machines look similar. Customers are confused. They don't know where to purchase. But then at the end of the day, it comes down to support, right? Like how easy can an end user get the machine printing, making their transfers? The dealers, I care that they have happy customers, and so it's a win-win if we make it as easy as possible for that end user to be able to print. And that quick start guide you keep mentioning, I'm super happy you saw that, because it's as easy as using your phone, scanning the QR code. You even get a dongle as well that has the file on it, so you can click it on your computer if you wanted to. That will be everyone's best friend. There's the flash drive as well, so if they don't have the QR code to scan, they can use the flash drive. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is just have the dealers have a peace of mind that when they sell this equipment, their customers will be happy. And Jeremy, you're someone, like I said, that I look up to when it comes to DTF, from your content to your videos to your color profiling. Your user experience as well with the R2 Pro has been awesome. And I think dealers should be able to use this, and someone that's not part of DTF Station, that has a great experience and as much wisdom that you do, to share this with their end users if they're on the fence. I think you said it correctly. What's on the horizon for Color Gamut? I know you have a lot of content coming out. What can the users look forward to next?
Yeah, just more education. And that's I appreciate partnering up with you guys, because that's helping support the education side of things, because education does not make a lot of money. Quite frankly, that's not you're not making the educational videos and then bringing in the big bucks. So but education is my passion. Like, I want to teach. So coming up on the horizon, hopefully this is a pretty new venture, and it's just been kind of picking up steam. But on the YouTube channel, you see a lot more video content. I'm creating resources as I make videos about them. So there'll be like resources you can download. I'm also going out and I'm doing installs on some machines, folks that repair things like that. Like, I've got some older customer relationships and stuff like that where I'm going out in the field and doing some work. Also doing some color profiling, working with some different companies. So there's a lot I've got going on the table, but the thing that I'm most passionate about is the education piece of it. I am planning I'm working on putting together a kind of a boot camp style of how to do DTF well, that covers from graphics to how to optimize your printer's workflow and stuff like that. Like, a lot of install techs do a great job on installing the machine, the equipment, but there's some like nuanced tweaks you can make to the printer, to your white underbase, to your adhesive powder, all these different kind of things you can do to optimize. And so I'm planning to release, as soon as I can get it together, a class that somebody brand new could take that class and from beginning to end know exactly what to do in almost every situation to produce the best quality transfers. And so that's what we're working on. It's going to take some time to get it going, but in the meantime, there'll be constant videos coming out on YouTube.
That's awesome. No, I'll definitely be joining that boot camp, because I want to, even myself, who I feel like I'm pretty good with the equipment, I want to keep learning. And dealers, use Jeremy as a resource. Send your customers to his boot camp, send them to his channel. If they have color questions, Color Gamut, Jeremy is the king of color, so make sure you reach out. But I look forward to possibly doing more of these in the future. I know we can work together. I know some trade shows coming up in the future we might see you at, so I know a lot of the users at home or viewers come by and say hello. But I appreciate you coming on today, Jeremy. If there's anything you want to send off with?
No, I'm just I'm stoked. Oh, we had a comment. I love this. Yep.
There we go.
Yep. we'll get something going. But yeah, no, I'm so stoked to be able to work with you guys and partner with you guys on some education stuff, because I know that's what you guys are passionate about as well. So I'm stoked for what the future is, and I'm stoked to get printing a lot more of this thing. Like I said, I just got my personal one recently set up. I'd worked with this printer before, which is why I knew this was the one I wanted. But yeah, I can't wait to start putting out some stuff and making some fresh teas. So
Awesome, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much, guys and dealers. Like I said, take advantage of this. We're going to go ahead and send this out to everybody, and viewers at home. We'll post this on YouTube. If you guys have any questions, make sure you comment below. Follow DTF Station on YouTube. Follow Jeremy at Color Gamut Consulting. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.